Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome dear learners to the another session of International Business Management. I am Dr. Manisha Goswami, Assistant Professor at Institute of Business Management, GLA University, Mathura. Today we will start with lecture number 11, and lecture number 11 is on Foreign Regulation Body. Before starting with lecture number 11, let's look at what we did in our previous lecture. In the previous lecture, we talked about certain strategies and structure of international business, and under this, we talked about Bartlett-Ghoushal model and the Potter's 5-force model analysis, and we even talk about certain organizational structure. The perspective of making you understand why it is important to have a strategy when you are moving to international market, because you are very new to the foreign market, and before entering into any new market, you need to have a fair understanding of the market by analyzing the market. As far as the Bartlett-Ghoushal model, it talks about understanding two essential pressure which are prevailing in international market. One is the cost reduction pressure, another is the local responsiveness pressure. So depending upon the type of company you are into or at which stage of globalization you are international company, multinational company, global company or a transnational company, you can decide your strategy on the basis of Bartlett-Ghoushal model. Another model that we discussed is a Potter's 5-force analysis model, which are talking about the different forces which is coming from the environment, the macro environment or the micro environment, which is affecting your business making decisions, like customer bargaining power, supplier bargaining power, threats of new entrant, threats of substitute, and even the influence of government have been taken into consideration to understand how different companies or industry has to react upon these forces which are coming to your organization. Next that we covered in the previous lecture is about the various international organizational structures. So depending upon your division, depending upon the product you are offering, depending upon the country you want to cater, you can have different set of the organizational structure, from strategic business unit to the matrix structure. So now let's begin with the lecture number 11, and let's look at the learning objective of studying this chapter, that foreign exchange regulating body. Most predominantly in our country is, earlier it was FERA, now it is FEMA. From Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, it moved to Foreign Exchange Management Act. We will talk about the foreign exchange, what does it mean, what are the different types of foreign exchange, and we will also try to understand what are the determinants of the foreign exchange market and what are the factors that affect the foreign exchange market in our country. Now let's begin with the basic overview of Foreign Exchange Management Act. So foreign exchange regulation in India are regulated by Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. Now what is foreign exchange? Foreign exchange is actually when you are having some currency transaction. You are buying certain product, and after buying certain product you have to pay the currency to the host country. Like you are India and you are you are importing some technology in India, and the technology is coming from Japan, right? So Japan is selling a technology to you, right? Maybe some advanced machinery you are buying for the manufacturing process, right? So you are getting the technology from Japan, you are importing it. This import is taking place, and as you are buying this from Japan, what you have to do, you have to make the payment, right? As you are buying certain stuff from Japan, so you have to make the payment, and this payment is going to be in the form of US dollar. Why it is going to be in the form of US dollar? Why you cannot make payment in the form of rupees? Why you cannot do it? Because it is not a universal currency. US dollar is considered to be a universal mode of the currency. US dollar, pound, euro, yen, these are going to be considered as a universal currency. From India, if transaction is going to take place between Japan and India, either you have to make payment in the form of the yen, which is a Japanese currency, or you have to make the payment in the form of the US dollar, which is universally acceptable. That means what is happening? Foreign exchange is taking place. you are purchasing certain thing, that's okay, because you don't have the production of it, and for carrying out certain essential activities in the country you need to buy certain technology, you need to buy certain resources from it, that's well okay, but you have to make the payment, and this payment is coming from the foreign reservoir of India, and this is coming from the foreign reservoir of India. They are taking out the US dollar for making this payment possible. Now, and how this can be functional, what are the rules and regulation for making such kind of transaction possible in India, and how you are going to attract the foreign investors to invest in your country, is going to be considered under the FEMA. FEMA is like an overall regulatory body which is going to frame certain rules and regulation for RBI, central government, and they are going to be certain department formation under the FEMA for the proper execution of the Foreign Exchange Management Act. The highest foreign exchange regulatory authority in India is the Reserve Bank of India, which make law and responsible for all major approvals. How foreign exchange regulated and managed? So, foreign exchange management is a regulatory mechanism that enables Reserve Bank of India to pass the regulations, Central Bank of India to pass the rules, Reserve Bank of India passing the regulations, Central Bank of India is making the rules related to foreign exchange in tune of foreign trade policy of India. So, Foreign Exchange Management Act is providing the clear-cut sections and the specification for the RBI as well as for the central bank. There are sections specifying that as per this section, central bank has to make the rules, as per this section, RBI has to make the regulations, right? Even they have autonomy and they have the power to even circulate the notices and the circulars, master circulars. Now, let's see how we moved from and why there was a need to move from FERA to FEMA, right? In the year 1947, and it would be very shocking for us to know that in the month of 15th August 1947, a day of independence, at this point of time, 1 INR was equal to $1. This was the situation. That means 1 rupee was equal to $1 in the year 1947. Our currency, despite of all being ruled so badly by the Britishers, we were so economically strong. But what had happened, why they are not just leaving it on the basis of the market forces, we will try to cover and see in the upcoming slides of this lecture. So now let us look at the FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, introduced in 1947, and just for 10 years. At this point of time, it was introduced just for 10 years, that is till 1957, and thereafter they find that there is a need for making it a permanent statutory, and then thereafter in the year 1957 they make it as a permanent statutory. Till 1957 it was not a permanent statutory. The purpose is to just regulate the foreign exchange, and what they are basically into it, they are very strict towards the foreign companies to enter into our country, because we being so badly ruined by the foreign countries or the Britishers and Eastern Indian companies. That is the reason why we don't want any foreigners to enter into our country. So we create a very harsh policy for the foreign investors to enter in our country. And that may be the reason why it was considered as one of the stringent law in the history of the country, because they were being so badly ruined by the foreign companies. They have took away all the economy of our country. That is why we were compelled and forced to frame stringent policies for the foreign people to enter into our country, and whosoever is violating with this law of Foreign Exchange Regulation Act is considered as a crime, and there is going to be a direct imprisonment. Every person is going to be considered guilty here, right? It's not like the person is going to be proved guilty only once it is proved. Every next person who is found to be violating the law of the FERA, Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, is going to be considered guilty straight away, is going to send behind the bars, and there is going to be, then they are going to do the cross interrogation and verification, and if later the person prove innocent, that is okay, then they are going to take all the charges away, but the first step is going to take the person behind the war. Even without the warrant, you can take the person behind the bars. And this is such kind of the stringent policy which was there in the FERA, and the reason is very clear, because we've been so badly ruined by the foreigners, by the foreign companies. So we have to have some strict policies against the foreign investors. And thereafter, and it kept on running till 1973, and thereafter, in this this is the time of the prime ministership of Jawaharlal Nehru. When Indira Gandhi took the prime ministership of a country, she come up with little modification in the FERA, which was set in the year 1957 as a permanent statutory. She brought certain modifications into it. Certain points have been overcome. Some more clause and adjustments she put in the FERA 1973, which made it even difficult for a company like Coca-Cola to survive in India, and they left India in 1974, because it came into practice in January 1974. This new FERA came into practice, and the policies of the new FERA further created a trouble for a company like Coca-Cola to survive in the Indian market, and the strict policy and strict regulation made it so suffocating for a company like Coca-Cola, such a big giant. They even decided to left the country, and they left the country in 1974. Thereafter, there was this continued to be the practice for controlling and making India as a closed economy. India kept on following the closed economic system till 1990. In the year 1990, what happened? The people went to IMF asking for funds, asking for some funds to help India to overcome the negative balance of payment. So what happened at this point of time? IMF raised the fund and they give the fund to India to overcome this, but they put certain terms and conditions upon India that you also have to bring certain economic reforms. If you continue to follow the closed economy system where you don't allow the foreign investors to in your country, it would be very difficult for you to survive in such isolation. So introduce economic reform, and 1991 became the year in the history of a country where, under the prime ministership of P.V. Narasimha Rao and Dr. Manmohan Singh was a finance minister at that point of time, India come up with the LPG policy. In the year 1991, India adopted what? LPG policy, and this was a pure economic reform which took place in the history of India. Because of this economic reform which took place in 1991, start having certain contradictions with the existing FERA. There were a lot of contradiction in execution of the LPG. Existing FERA 1974 was not supporting the LPG policy smooth execution, which compelled the Prime Minister Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee to come up with the modification in Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, and they come up with the FEMA 1999, and which actually came into practice in 1st June 2000. This came into practice in 1st June 2000, right? And because they were finding that existing conditions for regulating the foreign exchange and asking the foreign investors to come in India was contradicting with the LPG policy, and we have to execute the LPG policy. We have to bring this economic reform, because it was the economic consultation given by IMF to India before giving, or that was a term or condition set by IMF that we are ready to give you the fund, but you have to come up with economic reform in your country, otherwise your situation of economy will keep on deteriorating. So this was the condition. So they have no choice. They have to execute and come up with the economic reform, and they realize that economic reform is contradicting with existing FERA. And so they come up with the changes and modification in the FEMA, and the FEMA came into practice in the year 1st June 2000. And let us look at some more differences, and you will be able to understand more accurately what are the differences, or what are the changes have been brought up from FERA to FEMA. Right. So FERA is used to conserve the forex resources. Forex is foreign exchange resources, and its purpose is to promote the foreign exchange resources. Here that means they are holding with the foreign reserves, and rather here they are promoting more of foreign exchange. There should be the circulation or the flow of the foreign exchange should take place in the country. Here in case of the FERA, they were strictly holding on the foreign exchange. It is considered as a draconian act, that means one of the very stringent act. It is considered as a draconian act or the stringent act, or you can say a very harsh act, which don't allow the foreign investors to easily invest. There were tough regulations, there was tough custom duties, right? There were the tough licensing the people have to bear when they were trying to enter to India. Even that was the reason why Coca-Cola, such a big giant, even left India. And the moment India adopted the LPG policy and the FEMA came into practice, it became quite easy for the Coca-Cola company even to enter. So they entered into country after that. So, and it is considered as quite liberal for foreign investors to invest in. Every violation of the FERA is considered to be a criminal offence and leads to the imprisonment without any warrant. Here, if you are violating any of the clause or the rules and regulation of Foreign Exchange Regulation Act, you will be considered as a criminal and you will be behind the bars, and that too without any warrant. On the contrary side, in the case of the FEMA, this will be considered as a civil offence, and you cannot take the person behind the bars without any warrant. So first you have to issue the warrant here in case of the FEMA. You cannot simply put the person behind the bars simply stating the person is violated the FEMA or the Foreign Exchange Management Act. Here the different kind of the offences which are going to come under the FEMA, like money laundering is going to be the part of it, like you are violating any of the rules and regulation, you are not fulfilling or adhering to the FEMA, then there may be the possibility that you will be behind the bar or the case may go on. If you proved guilty, then only you will be behind the bars. If you don't prove guilty, then you will be out, right? Vijay Mallya is being caught under the FEMA Act, right? Even the Nirav Modi, Lalit Modi, they are being caught under the FEMA. The case is going on against these people because they violated this act. It is non-compoundable while it is compoundable. That means straight imprisonment without warrant, and it is incompoundable. That means you can fight your case, you can prove your innocence. It contained 81 sections, it was quite bulky, where in case it is containing just 49 sections, comparatively more classified and easy to understand and easy to regulate. Now let's look at the objectives of the FEMA. FEMA 1999 came into effect in 1st June 2000 to consolidate the law relating to foreign exchange with the objective facilitating external trade and payment for promoting the orderly development and maintenance of foreign exchange in the market. So there are certain very important things which to be emphasized on. That first objective is to facilitate what? External trade. You need to facilitate external trade, and what you are going to do, you are going to promote the orderly development of those external trade, and that's how you are going to maintain the foreign reserve in your country, right? How any country will get the foreign reserve? In our country, we are just producing, the RBI is circulating the flow of Indian currency. How we will be getting US dollar? How you will be getting pound, euro, yen when you will be having a deal with the foreign countries? So when you will be having a deal with the foreign country, they will be, say for example, you are selling some of your agriculture commodity to European country, they will be paying euros to you, or you might be asking them to give you US dollars. So you can have the transaction in the two ways. You may ask US dollars or you may ask for the euros from them. So if you are making some goods and services for the foreign market and selling it to them, then you will be getting certain foreign reserves from them. That is the practice what is going to be initiated in the Indian market, that we should be into more of Make in India concept rather than buying the things from outside. When you are buying the things from outside, your foreign reserves get shrink. When you produce the things in India and export it to the foreign market, your foreign reserve expenditure start growing up. So this is the perspective with which the FEMA is facilitating more of the external trade within the country itself. Why don't you come to India, do the production here and sell the product outside? Like HUL is having a wholly owned subsidiary in India, and they are selling the products to Bangladesh, Bhutan and Nepal. So here in this case, what is happening? We are getting the foreign reserves, and FEMA is into the FEMA has to be taken care of when HUL, they are making the production in India for the Bangladesh market, for the Nepal market, and for the Bhutan market. They are making production here, so they have to understand, and this entire practice of the business is going to come under the FEMA regulation. It extends to whole of India. It shall also apply to the branches, office, agencies outside India owned, controlled by person resident in India, and also to any contravention thereunder committed outside India by any person whom the act apply is going to come under the FEMA. Right. We will discuss about it in little more detail in upcoming slide. As you can see, the structure of the FEMA applies to whole of India. Even before the removal of Article 370 from the Jammu Kashmir, the FEMA was applicable to whole of the India. All branches, office, agencies outside India which are owned and controlled by a person resident in India are going to be responsible for adhering the new norms and rules and regulation of the FEMA. Let's look at it first, and then I'll get back to the previous points of the structure of the FEMA. Say for example, you are having a foreign company. You are a foreign company, and what you did, you are controlled by Indian company. Right? You are a foreign company, but you are controlled by whom? Indian company, like Tata Motors is controlling Land Rover or Jaguar. So that is a foreign company. Land Rover, Jaguar is a foreign company of the Ford, right? And it is owned by Tata Motors. So, and as it is owned by the Tata Motors, then this particular thing is going to come under the FEMA. Right? Tata Steel, Chorus plant in the foreign country, so it is going to come under again the FEMA. That means any foreign company having a controlling authority is coming from where? Controlling authority is coming from India. Any Indian company, if any Indian company is controlling you, then it is going to come under the FEMA. It is going to come under what? FEMA, Foreign Exchange Management Act. Next situation that we can see, if there is a foreign company and this foreign company is having a branch office in India. Right, there is a foreign company and it's having a branch office here in India. It's having a wholly owned subsidiary in India. Subsidiaries in India like Coca-Cola, Colgate, HUL. They are having a wholly owned subsidiaries in India. That means FEMA is going to play a role here. Again, you have to strictly consider the rules and regulation of FEMA. No matter you are a foreign company, but you are having a branch office here in India, you are having a wholly owned subsidiary here in India, then you have to adhere to Foreign Exchange Management Act. Right? There is another condition as well. Right? Let me explain you that condition. This is a third condition. Foreign company having a branch office here in India, right? Branch office in India, and this branch is having a presence in multiple countries, right? Is having presence, suppose in Thailand, they are having presence in Vietnam, they are having presence in Japan or maybe Indonesia, right? So this branch office is here in India, but this branch office is supplying the goods or the services to Thailand, Vietnam, Japan or Indonesia or any other southern and Asian countries, then also it is going to be the part of FEMA. It is also going to be the part of FEMA. There are three conditions where the Foreign Exchange Management Act is going to play the role. As it was mentioned in the previous slide that it is applied to whole of India. The next important thing, any branch all the offices, any agency outside India which are owned and controlled by person resident of India is going to come under the FEMA. This is what we try to explain with these different structure, like foreign company owned by Indian companies is going to come under FEMA, foreign company having any branch office is going to come under FEMA, foreign company with branch office here but having presence in multiple countries is also going to come under the Foreign Exchange Management Act. Right. Now, let us look at further more structures of the FEMA. That FEMA has 49 sections and 49 out of the entire 49, 9 sections are substantive and the rest are procedural and administrative. Now, these section number 46 is the where it is a section where the central government has been given a power authority to make the rules. Section 47 of the FEMA give the authority and power to RBI to make the regulations, and RBI has to entrust that administration and implementation of the FEMA and through the formation of a Directorate of Enforcement. Right. So, let us look at the various government department under the FEMA, like RBI is setting the regulation, Government of India is setting the rules for the FEMA, and Directorate of Enforcement is ensuring the proper and smooth execution. If anyone found to be violating, they are the people who are going to take into account and they are the people who will be getting into interrogation. Right. And Foreign Investment Promotion Board, it is actually the part of the economic affair of a country, comes under the Ministry of Finance, and their job is to make your country more attractive for foreign investors to do the investment herein, so that our export start increasing than import, because our ultimate purpose is nowadays is toward make in India. Everything should be make in India. Then for making it make in India possible, you need to have Foreign Investment Promotion Board. You need to have certain promotion techniques, strategies which attract more of the foreign investor towards your country. So the products which you were buying from them earlier will be produced in India itself. Right. So that is going to help India to overcome the negative balance of payment effect. That means a deficit situation which we see in the balance of trade, where your imports are very high as compared to your exports. Right. So, exports are very less as compared to your import, and that is a situation of deficit in the balance of trade, and which leads to the negative BOP, and which compel the government to have certain measures like Make in India, and that is only possible through promotion of foreign investment in our country. Now, let us talk about certain exchange rates. Right. What these exchange rates are and why it is important to be understood, because you cannot do transaction in your own country. It's now because of the globalization, entire world has become a single market, but every country is having their own currency. Though because of globalization, entire world is become a single market. Entire world is a single market, but every country is having their own currency system. Every country is having their own currency system until and unless they have pegged their currency with US dollar. Right. There may be the possibility because of your economic conditions are so poor, so you packed your currency with some well established or universally acceptable currency like US dollar. So, until and unless that situation is there in the country, every next country in the world is having their own currency system. So, if I as India want to do some transaction with China, then I need to have US dollar in my hand or the Chinese currency yuan. Either of the two currency I need to carry. I cannot have a transaction being India with China in INR. I cannot do this because INR is not acceptable in China. They either be accepting the US dollar or they are accepting their own currency yuan. Right. So, for this you need to have the understanding that how exchange rate take place and what are the convertibility charges. So, when you will be converting your Indian currency into US dollar, you have to bear certain convertibility charges, and the convertibility charges are going to be based on the economic condition of yours. Right. Today it is 74.08, So if it is 74.08, then you have to bear certain percentage of the convertibility charges to get this much of, right. So every this much of amount you have to pay to get $1. This much of INR you have to pay to get $1 today, but because of the convertibility charges you might be asked to pay some extra percent amount or some extra amount to get just $1, because the convertibility charges are going to be involved, because US dollar is in demand, right. People are demanding US dollar like anything, and the supply of the US dollar is limited. So as the supply is limited, so if you are demanding, you have to bear certain convertibility charges. Now let's look at some more points. Exchange rate is the price of the currency. Just I try to explain you with these examples. Foreign exchange market is made up of different players. As you can see, the foreign exchange market, it's an entire market of the world. Because of globalization, entire market becomes a single market, single global village. But every country is having their own currency, and for converting their currency into the required currency, they have to bear certain convertibility charges, and those charges are going to be determined on the basis of the economic condition of your country. International settlement of financial organizations settle in Basel, Switzerland, owned and controlled by 60 member central banks, and the purpose is for reporting dealer, financial institution and non-financial institutions. The purpose is reporting dealer. What is the purpose of the reporting dealer? Reporting dealer are more commonly known as money central bank. They are more commonly known as money central bank. And this is the bank having a membership of around 60 big countries, and what they are into, they are, because they are dealing with huge size of the foreign reserve. They are the people who are regulating even the price of the money in the world market, because they are having a huge share of the market, right. See, this is the money central bank, and they are the largest financial institution. They are considered as the largest financial institution that actively participates. These are actively participating. Where they are participating? They are actively participating in local as well as global foreign exchange market. They are actively dealing with global and local foreign exchange market. And even that's not the only thing which they are dealing with. They are also dealing in the derivative markets. They are also dealing with the derivative market, right. So the money central bank is the largest financial institution that actively participate in local and global foreign exchange market as well as the derivative market. And this largest bank and the financial institution in terms of the overall market share in the foreign exchange trading, such as Citibank is there, the Barclays is there, HSBC is there, JP Morgan is there. They are the active participant or the member of this, and because of this the massive participation in the market, they are regulating the price of the market. They are the people who are setting the price, and they are creating a money market, because the large players are involved in money central bank, and that is what reporting dealers are all about. So in short, what we can say, reporter dealer influence the price setting and are the market makers. They are the people who are influencing the price. So in short, what we can say, reporting dealers influence price influencer, and they are the market makers. They are the price influencer and market maker, because they include largest bank and financial institutions in terms of the overall market share. Why this is happening? Because they are having largest bank and financial institution, right? And in terms of the overall market share in the foreign exchange trading, like Citi, like Barclays, HSBC, JP Morgan are the part of it, and there are many more, right? They are part of the reporting dealer, and they become the people who are influencing the price of all over the country, in the world, and in the entire exchange market. And even they are also termed as a money maker, or they are rather the market maker. They are giving shape to the markets, right? Another one apart from the reporting dealer is a financial institution. They include local, regional, commercial bank, right? What they include? They include local and regional commercial banks, and even the mutual fund is going to come under it. Their investment banks are also going to come under it. Pension fund is also going to come under it, right? So they are, financial institutions are local, regional, commercial banks. They where the mutual fund, investment bank, even the pension fund are going to be the part of the financial institution. As far as non-financial institutions are concerned, these are like, one of the best example of it is the Western Union is a non-banking financial institution, right, that deals with the foreign exchange. So Western Union is a non-banking financial institution that deals with the foreign exchange market. Here in the financial institution, local, regional, commercial bank, investment bank, mutual fund, right, even the pension fund are going to be the part of the financial institution, where in case the reporting dealer, they are the price influencer. They are the price influencer and market makers, right? Now let's move to the who determine the foreign exchange rates. Obviously the market forces. Market forces are your demand and supply. Market forces are what? Demand and supply. They are the two main essential things who are going to determine the price of the foreign exchange rates in the particular country. Like supply curve of a foreign exchange is upward slopey with respect to the foreign exchange rate. Demand curve of a foreign exchange is downward slopey with respect of the foreign exchange rate. Now let's look at and try to understand how it is. Say for example, in case of a demand curve is always downward slopey. That means with the price and the quantity, right, the price and the quantity of the foreign exchange rate you want to convert, the money that you want to convert, and the price is there. As soon as the demand is going to increase, what is going to happen? The price is going to go down. With increase in price, the quantity demanded is going to be reduced. Earlier the price was P1 and the price level is P2. So when the price was P1, the quantity demanded was Q1. It was quite high, right? As the price gone up, the quantity demanded reduced to this much, and the people are demanding only this much. So this is indicating what? With the increase in price, the quantity demanded is going to go down. So if, as you already know, the people, every next country is demanding US dollar, pound, euro, yen for transaction. They consider to be a universal currency to make the transaction. So if everyone start asking for US dollar, pound, euro, yen, what is going to happen? The quantity of the US dollar, pound, euro, yen is going to reduce in the market, is going to be obviously the quantity is going to go down. Why the quantity is going to go down? Because price start increasing, people start demanding, so obviously it become costlier to convert your Indian currency into US dollar, right? As I told you, in the year 1947, 1 INR was equal to 1 US dollar. That was a situation. And eventually what started happening, instead of increasing the demand of INR in the market, what was happening, people start demanding more of US dollar, because they start pegging their currency with the US dollar. US dollar start becoming a economic power, start gaining economic power in the world, and every next country start demanding for US dollar. Eventually what happened, now 74 INR is equal to 1 US dollar. Now this is the current situation, and this was in the year 1947. In 2022, what is the situation? Approximately 74 INR is equal to what? 1 US dollar. That means there is a huge requirement or demand of US dollar. People are demanding more of this, and because of which now you have to pay more for converting the Indian currency into US dollar, because it's more in demand. So that this is what we try to indicate. Earlier you have to pay 0 because it is equal. Earlier you don't have to pay much for converting your Indian currency into US dollar, because they are equivalent. Eventually there is a hike in the US dollar appreciation to keep on taking place, and as a result now it is 74 INR is equal to 1 US dollar. Now you have to pay more, and quantity will also be less. Earlier you can get more of quantity, now you have to find out which particular thing, only essential things I am going to buy from the American market, unnecessary thing I will not buy, because I have a scarcity of the resources, I have a scarcity of the foreign reserves, right? So people have started finding that only essentials I am going to buy, so their quantity of demand is also going to get reduced, because the price is now high, right? On the other side, let's try to see the relationship of the supply with the price. In this case, what we see, the graph is upward sloping, because every supplier, the supply of the foreign reserves in the market and the price in the price of the supply of the foreign reserves in the market, right? As we see, if there is, with the increase in price, supplier want to take maximum, right, advantage of that, and they want to supply the product at a higher price. Every supplier, every manufacturer want to supply at a higher price. When the price goes down, they don't want to supply it, because they want that there will be the possibility the price will go high, and at that point of time I will sell it. And that is the reason why people hold or reserve some US dollar. People invest in US dollar. They convert the Indian currency into US dollar, because they have a faith the US dollar will appreciate. So when the gold will appreciate, when the US dollar will appreciate, I will sell it in the market. So with increase in price, the supply is going to be increased, because everyone want to have more of what? The returns, right? They want to sell the product at a higher rate, because you are holding certain reserves, you are holding certain currency in your hand, you want to sold it off in the market when the price is high. So this is what we try to explain to you, and this will make you understand that why supply curve is upward slopey. As you can see in the previous slide, the supply curve is upward slopey, where in case the demand curve is downward slopey, right? And what will happen to export when country foreign exchange rate increase or decrease? Say for example, you just recall the day when around 2008, when there was a recession in America. As a result, there was a slowdown in India also. At that point of time, the US dollar, 1 US dollar was equals to 27 rupees. This situation in 2008, when there was a recession in US dollar, the Indian rupee start appreciating against the US dollar, and it even goes up to 27 rupees INR. Because of the appreciation in the Indian currency, what start happening? It start troubling the Indian exporters. Indian exporters start troubling. They were into lot of situation. They would start declaring the strike. They want the devaluation of the currency. Why they want the devaluation of INR? Why they want the devaluation of Indian currency? Because now the foreign client have to pay more to buy the same old stuff, because of the appreciation in the current Indian currency around in this year 2008, 9 and 10. So they people declare the strike, they people compel the government to devalue the Indian currency so that we can have more better options in the foreign market, because foreign clients are not buying my product. On the contrary side, the importers were very happy, right? Now they can easily buy stuff, more products, because now the Indian product is now the Indian value has start appreciating. Now earlier I have to pay more, now I have to pay less for buying the same stuff. But government also have to listen to the exporters. Though importers were happy, but Indian government has to look up to the exporters, because India country is still a developing country. Why it is still a developing country? Because we have more of imports than of exports, right? Because of this more of import, what is happening? We are losing our foreign reserves. So because of this reduction in foreign reserves because of import, and this appreciation of Indian currency or further appreciated the import, and depreciation in the export leads to further more adverse situation, that is of deficit. Because of the slowdown or the complete economic recession in America, India also start having the crisis because of this situation. Imports start increasing, exports start going down, which created a tough time for even India during that time, despite of having appreciation in the value of the currency. Now let's try to understand the types of the foreign exchange rate. Foreign exchange rate can be the parity value of the currency pegging. This is what the fixed exchange rate, right? And there are certain flexible exchange rates as well, right? There are certain flexible exchange rate, they are managed exchange rate. So let's try to see one by one. If it is a fixed exchange rate, that means there will be no impact of what? Demand and supply on you. Demand and supply is not going to affect in case of the fixed exchange rate. You have set your currency and you have pegged your currency with some established currency like US dollar or pound, euro, yen, right? You have pegged your currency with some other currency, like countries like Panama is into like this, Qatar is like this, Saudi Arabia is like this, UAE has also done this practice of fixing their exchange rate. Demand market forces are not going to affect it, as they have pegged their currency with US dollar. So they will be accepting only one currency in their country. If any transaction is taking place of such countries with any foreign countries, they will be accepting the currency only in the form of US dollar, right? Even the Vietnam also did the same thing. They have pegged their currency with US dollar. Flexible exchange rate market forces are going to play an essential role. There will be a role of the demand and supply. On the basis of the demand of the US dollar or the supply of US dollar, the convertibility and the valuation in the world market is going to be determined. So the countries like mostly the developed countries like Canada, Norway, right, Canada, Norway is there, Mexico is there, right, even Sweden, Poland. These are the different countries. Even for sure USA and Australia is also, this is Canada and this is Norway, right? Because of the demand and supply, they are going to decide what is going to be the currency charges or the convertibility charges or the value for the world market to buy or sell the USA currency or other Australian dollar. Managed exchange rate, where there is going to be a percentage of certain role of, or there's going to be a certain role of demand and supply. At the same time, the central bank of country like RBI in our case is going to regulate the flow of currency in the market by either buying or selling some of the foreign reserves to control the devaluation or the further valuation of the currency in a country. So country like India having a managed, Thailand is having a managed currency, this Malaysia is also having a and Afghanistan, Burundi, Colombia, even Algeria is having the managed exchange rate, and this where you are not only or solely letting your country economy to be governed and analyzed by the demand and supply. You have identified that there will be a role of the central bank of a country in order to regulate the flow of the currency in your market. So here what central bank would be doing, central bank will be buying or selling the foreign reserves or the foreign currency to maintain certain range, and this is what known as crowling. And this is what known as crowling pegging, where central bank is buying and selling certain currency in order to maintain certain range, is going to known as crowling pegging. So these are the different types of the foreign exchange rate. Now let's quickly look at some of the factors that influence the exchange rate. Like the inflation is going to influence your exchange rate, right? If the inflation is high, that means what is going to happen? Your interest rate is going to be very low, and this is going to be less attractive for a people to invest in a country where they will not be getting much of the interest after their investment. So they will not make investment in a country where inflation is high. So you are going to lose the foreign market, you are going to lose the foreign investment option, where in case where the interest rate are high, maximum of the foreign reserve will float towards you, though it is going to be a volatile money, but the money will float to you, because people will find that if I'll be investing in a market like India, where the interest rates are quite high, I will be depositing money here in India, I'll be getting good returns. So the lot of foreign reserve will float towards your market. In case of a speculation, if anybody speculate that India market is going to boom like anything, or is going to be a great appreciation in the valuation of Indian currency, the people will start investing in your country. On the contrary side, if they found like country like Greece and Venezuela, they are not doing at all, and there is a possibility of a complete bankruptcy despite of all the support of the different countries, the European countries and private investor, these countries are not going to do well, the people will start withdrawing the money from the market. And this is what happened in the case of during the time in 2000 at Lehman Brothers crisis in America. The people started realizing that whatever the money they have invested in America have to be taken off, because America is quite close to the bankruptcy. The economy is totally devastated. It's the support of the World Bank which America got to revive and regain the economy which they have lost. So even this such kind of the things have badly impacted the investor mind also. They started thinking of withdrawing the money from the market. Change in the competitiveness, right? If you are finding the particular country has developed some expertise, has developed certain excellency, and this excellency is demanded by the world, then this dynamics, the change in the dynamics of your country is also going to attract a lot of foreign investors toward your country. Next is the relative strength of the other currency, right? The kind of the currency you are having and the currency I am holding. If I have to pay more of the convertibility charges while entering into your country, I may not take the decision of entering into your country. Why a country is growing? Because they are earning in US dollar and spending in Indian rupees, so they have to pay less as compared to what they are earning. So that's also one of the reasons why we are getting more of outsourcing business from the market. So this is negatively connected. And even Japanese currency yen, they kept it low to make it export competitive. A balance of payment, if a particular country is having a negative side of the balance of payment, it indicates the economic situation is not stable, it's fluctuating, and this is going to be a point of concern for foreign investor to invest in a country where the economic situation is not sound. So you need to find out and figure out that your country economy is economically stable or not, and for this you need to control the balance of payment, and for this you have to take care of your balance of trade by ensuring that there should be no surplus and there should be no deficit, and at the same time you need to focus on what? Equilibrium situation, where your exports equals to import. This is an ideal situation. Surplus is also not good, deficit is also not good. Rather you need to strike the balance of export equals to import. Government debts, right? If government has a lot of borrowings from IMF or the World Bank, in the previous lecture we had talked about it, that India in the year 2000 declared themselves that Now we don't own anything from IMF, we are the contributors to IMF, right? And the World Bank, whatever the borrowings the particular country is having from IMF and World Bank will also be the strong determinant of deciding whether to enter into a country like India or not. Because if they are having a lot of borrowing, what they will be doing, they will be charging from you to repay back those borrowings to the IMF, right? So that is one of the another reason why people don't want to be in a country who's having a lot of debts. If a country is having lot of government intervention like the government don't give you the autonomy to do your business in your country, they are intervening into your day-to-day course of action, then it also become a point of concern for the people that I don't want to enter into a country where the government is creating a havoc. They are into my day-to-day activities, they want every clearance before, right? Say some government attempt to influence the value of their currency. For example, China has sought to keep its currency undervalued to make Chinese export more competitive. They can do this by buying US dollar asset, which increase the value of US dollar and the Chinese yuan, right? So there are situations where government are so much involved in the process of the currency valuation and devaluation system, and also create a disturbance in the process of currency conversion and by and large the foreign exchange market. Next is the economic growth and the recession. If in a country there is a depreciation, the value is going down, people don't want to invest because their money will get stuck, right? And if there is economic growth, there is a progression in the economy of a country, for sure the people would like to invest in a country because there is a possibility their money will get multiplied, right? So these are some of the broad factors which are affecting what? These are the broad factors affecting the exchange rate in the world market. So we talked much about them from the perspective of the foreign exchange convertibility charges, and we make you understand that how these different factors can be the ruling factor for deciding whether foreign investment will float to your country or not float to your country. Now let's quickly review the different topics that we discussed today. Today we talked about the foreign exchange regulating body, particularly the FEMA, and we also talked about its journey from FERA to FEMA and why there was a need actually to convert the FERA into a FEMA in the year that is 1999, but it actually came into practice in June 2000, 1st June 2000, right? So this what we had discussed, and I even let you know that FEMA was having certain practices which is facilitating the economic reform which took place in 1991, and the FERA acts were considered to be the most stringent act, because of which there was a need to bring some modification, liberalization, even this Foreign Exchange Management Act or the Regulation Act, to facilitate the liberalization, privatization and globalization in your country. We talk about the meaning of the foreign exchange, we talk about the different types of the foreign exchange, and we also recently discussed the factors affecting the foreign exchange. We also come to know about that certain countries are trying to keep their exchange rate as fixed by pegging their currency with some well-known established currency like US dollar. We also come to know about there are countries, the developed countries, who keep their currency as flexible, which are determined by the demand forces. Even the country are having a managed foreign exchange currency system where, like India, where we are taking a reference of market forces, but at the same time the Central Bank of India is also making a significant role in deciding the value of the currency. These are the reference book which I have referred today. I hope you people are clear with today's lecture. Thank you so much. All the best for your future.
Hello and welcome to this piece of literary snippet. We usually know William Shakespeare as the most revered figure in the history of English literature. But we often tend to forget that he has also been one of the most hated figures in literature. And here I'm not talking only about those boys and girls who have to memorize long sections from Macbeth or King Lear or Julius Caesar before they can go and sit for their school or college exams. But I'm also talking about people who are themselves quite famous authors. Tolstoy, for instance, considered the writings of Shakespeare to be, and I quote, crude, immoral, vulgar, and senseless. George Bernard Shaw absolutely loathed Shakespeare, as he did Homer. But perhaps no other criticism about Shakespeare is more damaging than the one which says that Shakespeare is a marvelous storyteller, provided someone has told him the story earlier. Now, this piece of criticism is particularly damaging because it is true. None of Shakespeare's plays contain any original story whatsoever. They are all written using pre-existing materials, pre-existing stories.